Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Say Hi to God today. So today, I want to talk about something that is dear to my heart. I'm always talking about things that are dear to my heart or things that I think are very important. Because somehow God laid it in my spirit that it's very important, especially in this season for us. In fact, always in every season, it's very important. It's communicating in marriages. I see a lot of couples that sometimes I'm like, what you guys talk about in your marriage? Because I'm like, oh, have you told your husband about this or your wife about this? Like, no, I don't like to have those kind of conversations. I'm like, okay, what kind of conversations do you like to have? I don't really know. And yes, I understand that it's not very easy and it's not every relationship that is open. But at the same time, I still want to stress on the importance of communication. Now, I think the first thing for me is you understanding that you and your husband are one. I'm speaking like you and your spouse, your significant other, are one. Man and wife, one. Right? It says a man will leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife, and the two will become one. Now, in that place of being one, you need to understand that whatever you are going through, your spouse is also going through that with you. If you have that mindset of understanding that this is you and your spouse together as one, I think that your communication should be a bit more open. Your communication should be a bit more open. And there are a lot of issues that will be avoided by simply just having a little more openness in your communication. Now, I have to be honest with you. You shall not run away from difficult conversations. I speak it upon you in the name of Jesus. You will not run away from difficult conversations. Difficult conversations are the thing, or are the conversations that make having conversations easier. That's the way I see it. If you don't have those difficult conversations, or the conversations that you feel are difficult conversations, then you're going to have a bigger problem just communicating generally. Because then naturally, as human beings, your mind psychologically starts to see everything as a stressful conversation. So you're not as willing to share certain details or things that are happening in your life, right? I like to tell people your spouse is not a witch or a wizard to know what you are thinking. You may be going through something, but find a way to communicate. And I'm going to share what has helped, what has helped me generally in this life. And you have to start from, for those who are watching and you're not yet married, please start from the time when you're still single and dating or whatever, to learn to develop an open relationship. Tell your spouse things, tell them everything about you. Let them know who you truly are. When you hold back parts of you to someone else, they're parts of all of us, even myself. There are parts of all of us that, are not necessarily the best parts or the parts of our lives that we're most proud of. But that's why it's your spouse, You're going into a relationship for life with someone. Personally, I don't want to go into a relationship for life with someone who doesn't know who I really am. And then I'm going into that relationship and, always asking myself or trying to hide certain things about myself. Sometimes I see certain things that happen in relationships and I'm like, how did that happen? Right? How did you get to that point? Because is it that you don't know who you got married to? Is it that you didn't have these conversations with the person? So have the important conversations. Yeah, what you are wearing and if you have eaten and all of those conversations they're nice conversations for chit chat. But have serious conversations. Have the deeper conversations. There was someone who, I knew a long time ago, and I was, there were considerations and thoughts about, oh, will I marry this person or will I not marry that person? But I told my mom and I said to her, I don't feel like I communicate well with this person. Like we talk, but we don't communicate. We're talking, But we're talking about everything except the things that actually matter, right? And for me, that was a big issue because I feel like if you don't have those deeper conversations or those more meaningful conversations, you're going to be stuck in a place where you don't know who you're getting married to. And then one day, so the illustration that always used to come in my head was like, I know this person, and it's going to be like every day there's a cup that is being filled up, filled up, filled up, filled up with new things. Like when you get married to this person, you're going to have a cup being filled up every day with new things that you find out, new things that you find out, new things that you find out that you had no clue were there before you got married. And one day you will just explode, right? In the same way, it's actually funny. You can't know anybody finish. Let me say it here. You can't know anybody to, completion. So in essence, the idea is before you marry the person, at least know the foundation of the person. Know what is in their core, right? Know what is in their core. I knew my husband for like 13 years before we got married. I knew my husband for like 13 years before we got married, right? And even at the point where we got married, I'm like, there were still a lot of things that I started to see when we got married. But guess what? They are all things that I was fine with. No, I can't say that's a lie. So it's not that everything is acceptable. It's not that everything is going to be good or things that you find easy. But there are things that my personality can adjust to with his personality. I don't know if that made a little bit of sense, right? So you will have, it's like, when you start living together, you start to see different things. You start to see different behaviors and stuff like that. Some good, some bad, and then you make adjustments as needed. And as human beings, don't forget that we are adaptable. What I always told myself, even my husband and I, we have this understanding that, when we started having all these communications and stuff like that, when we have a disagreement or we don't agree on something, like, we're not on the same page with something, I liken it to when I have a disagreement with maybe my siblings. The fact that I had a disagreement with my siblings does not mean that they are no longer my siblings or I don't love my siblings anymore. It's like, okay, we don't agree on this, that's okay, and then we can move forward. And you know what it helps you do? When you have a difficult conversation or you have an argument or a conflict in your marriage, right? What that helps you do is it tells you a bit more about what your spouse likes or not. And then the next time a situation like that arises, you can say, okay, I shouldn't do this. Like one thing I know my husband does not like is disrespect. Hey, God, I cannot disrespect my husband. I cannot talk anyhow, those kind of things. So if an occasion arises that will seem as though it will come off as disrespect, I try as much as possible not to, go toe in the line of something that may appear to be disrespectful, right? And it's like the Bible said, my husbands, love your wives. Wives, submit to your husbands, right? I don't want to go into all the details of that, but there's a reason why the Bible has said that. There's a reason why the Bible has said that. Women, we desire that love. We want to know that, you cherish me, you adore me, And the men want to know that they are respected. They want to know that they are appreciated as the head of their homes without having to say, I'm the head of this family, I'm the head of this family, So just because of things like that, when it comes to communicating in the marriage, communicating about things regarding the children, there's a time and place for everything. So you don't have to say everything. Like, you can have conversations about anything and everything, but there's a time to have those conversations. There's a place to have those conversations. There's a way to have those conversations. Now, when I say there's a time, your husband annoys you and did something that you did not like, maybe people are outside in public. It's not outside in public, you can't tell him, babe, this thing you did, or in front of the children. that you tell him, babe, this thing you did, I don't like it. No. You have to wait for the right place. Now, there's a right time. You and your husband can be having an argument and you feel the need to make your point right now. Now is not the time to make the point. Because if he's already still upset, and you two, you now come and you want to form I'm making my own point, at that point, it will just turn into a useless argument where you are not listening and he is not listening. Now, there's a way to have those conversations. Not every conversation needs to be had by mouth. Sometimes what I do, and I learned it growing up. So because of the way our relationship was with our parents when we were growing up, like, you know, it was more a serious relationship. You know how it is now. Parents used to be tough, right? And sometimes just because I didn't know how they will receive certain things we wanted to say to them, when I don't know how to say it in the presence, because you can be having a conversation with someone, but your brain is not, you've not gathered your thoughts, right? So for me, when I want to speak to my parents, I need to gather my thoughts and tell them how I'm feeling or what I'm thinking, right? And in order for me to do that, I learned that written communication is usually better for them. So either I know nobody writes letters now, but you can write letters or you can send a message. I call it epistle. I will take my time, I'll sit down and I'll write my own epistle. This is how I feel about the situation, or this is what I'm thinking about the situation. Because in doing that, I can properly articulate what it is that I want to say. And I know that me and you will not argue in the process of saying this thing, right? You will read my communication and the message is passed. Now, whatever you want to do with the message is okay. It's fine. You can still stand your ground and say that this is where you are on the matter. Or you can send a voice note. I'm known for my very, very long voice notes in this life. I'm known for long voice notes. So if you can't type it, send a voice note. The good thing about voice notes is that it also tells your tone. So if you're not very good at writing or being conscious of tone in your messages, it can be miscommunicated also. So just being mindful of the way you're communicating certain things is also very important, and how you communicate it. And when you communicate something, especially in times of like conflict and stuff like that, when you communicate, have an openness to receive feedback. Have an openness to receive, and have an openness to understand that the conversation must not end the way you want it to end. You are not the ultimate. You are not the alpha and the omega, right? You may reach a conclusion that does not necessarily favor you, but that can be okay too. And sometimes for peace to reign, communicate. So once you're doing anything and you're communicating from a place of love, I think that is the first, that's actually one of the most important things. You understand that you and your husband are in this together and you're operating from a place of love. Your communication will be more fluid, in essence. Your communication will be more open, more respectful, because you understand that you're both in this together and there is love in your midst. And most of all, above all things, pray about it and always invite the Holy Spirit, especially when you're having a difficult conversation. Sometimes I don't know how to speak to my husband about a particular thing, or I'm not sure how to speak to him about a particular thing. I pray about it. And I'm not joking. I know people will say it's religious something. I pray about it. There are certain things that have happened, or I'm trying to explain a reason, like, a reason why we should embark on a project or something like that, and he's not on the same page with me. I won't stay arguing all the time. I'll go back and I'll pray about it. And sometimes I'll pray the kind of prayer that you think that, something serious is happening. And yeah, one day he will just rise up and he say, we should do this thing, we should do that thing. And I'm like, glory be to Jesus. So thank God, So yeah, I hope this has been helpful. Thank you everyone for watching. God bless you. And don't forget to say hi to God today. Have an amazing day. Bye.